Hello, I'm Noel, this is Antonia from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company, and this is another one of our Boxtail Scoops. Oh my god, you did it! I'm stunned, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
On board. This week we have been, well, do you want to explain? We've been doing some rehearsal and some R&D stuff.
Yes, we have. We discussed before we do these vlogs who's going to do which bit, just so that we roughly know what's happening. Noel has obviously forgotten. In fact, that was his segue. He was supposed to carry on.
Sometimes I worry that I waffle too much, so I often look to Antonia to go, am I talking too much? I thought maybe I should just stop and go. Right,
So,
I'll let
yes.
you introduce the week.
The week. We have been doing a week of research and development for our show, A Christmas Carol, which is going to be on at the Everyman Theatre in Cheltenham this December. And we would normally work in a slightly different way. For most shows we would have a 3-week rehearsal period and it would be 3 consecutive weeks. However, obviously owing to the current situation, things have to be a lot more flexible. And because people have got sort of sporadic work or they've had to change jobs entirely for the time being because the arts world has been so tricky, we have had to be a little bit more unconventional this time. So we've got 3 separate weeks effectively of rehearsals. Mm-hmm. But it was actually really lovely to have this week so early. Is that what you were going to say?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, we're trying to sort of turn it to our advantage.
Yes, exactly.
So it's been really interesting to do it this way and to have like a solid week like that.
And it's quite fortunate at this stage in the making process, in fact, to have the research and development week at this point, because it means that we can be very flexible. We are anyway, but we can be even more flexible, I think, with what we've made and potentially changing some of those ideas of set, for example, that we're going to make, that we then realise would work better in a different way practically. So we've spent the week having a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, it has been really good fun. It's always difficult at the very beginning of any rehearsal process, especially if you've got something that has a lot of challenges in terms of location or number of characters or a particular kind of piece of magic or something that's supposed to happen. There can be a lot of reasons that you'll have a challenge ahead of you, and it's nice to be able to work your way through and come up with some kind of solution to those. The idea of this week was to get a very rough sketch in that sense. You're not looking to kind of finesse the acting.
No.
You're not looking for beautiful, graceful movements. That all comes a lot later. But we steadily kind of worked our way through the whole story, and some of it is relatively easy, where you've got a conversation between 2 characters and they're in one location, fairly straightforward. But then when you come against some location changes or some, a spirit appears in this story, obviously I'm trying not to be too specific about Christmas Carol, but we then try and solve that problem in some way. It doesn't have to be beautiful, it doesn't have to be slick yet. It has to basically be
It's about
convincing.
the ideas, isn't it? It's about saying for a particular moment that this is the idea that we're going to work towards, and in principle, does it work or not? If in principle it works and we're kind of like, yeah, we can see how once we've got all the puppets dressed properly, once we're dressed properly, once we've rehearsed it 25 times, over and over, that'll then be beautiful. And that's what it is. And for us, for every show really, we do try to work in what pictures do we want to see, especially when you're working with puppets as well. I think we've built some lovely puppets. We're very pleased with the puppets we've built for this show, but we always have a slight anxiety that each of the puppet appearances ends up being, it's just another puppet. They look the same, you're just using them in the same way every time. And with this show, we very much wanted to get different things out of each of the puppets when they appear.
Especially because it's got quite a large cast number.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of characters appearing. You don't just want the same picture, the same thing happening over and over again.
So we spent, as you said, we went through the script, gave ourselves an idea of the shape, the things that we wanted to see, and then we got it up on its feet and had a go and had a look at what that might look like, how that might work. Sometimes you talk about an idea and then when you actually try and do it, you realise it's entirely impractical and it doesn't really work, and then you need to twist things around.
Yeah.
We also, at this stage in the process, often edit the script a fair bit. You know, we'll come into the first week of rehearsals with a rehearsal draft, very much with the idea that bits of it will get cut, bits of it could get moved around, depending on what works best for the telling of the story when you're actually physically doing it. And certainly this week we did a fair bit of script editing. We made certain duologues into monologues. We made sure basically that we are constantly serving the story that we want to tell. That's always really, really important. And the next thing I think that's probably worth saying is at this point, in fact at any point, even if it's right at the very end, we are never precious. We try not to be precious about the things that we've made or the ideas that we've had. I think the saying is kill your darlings, and we are very willing to kill our darlings.
Yeah, so I think that's what we've said we'll title this week's vlog, and that's absolutely the case throughout, and it has to be. You can't. It's tricky to describe really, because often we have an idea that we're very attached to, and we will actually, as we've said before, you know, one of us will actually kind of fight for it and go, no, I think we should keep this bit, or I think this is a really good idea, it's worth pursuing. But ultimately, even if it's my favourite idea or your favourite idea, ultimately you have to have the good sense and I guess the humility, to be able to recognise either if it's not going to work, or if it doesn't work in the context of the show, or if it doesn't serve the story and the image that you're trying to create. You've got to be ready to get rid of it. Doesn't matter how long it's taken you to make that puppet. Doesn't matter how long you've worked on, you know, the sketch for that idea. Doesn't matter how long you spent writing this section. If it doesn't work, ultimately, you've got to be ready to let it go.
So I think with this week, one of the first things, well not the first, but well, actually maybe it was, that we realised we didn't need was various of the puppets, when they're only being operated by one person and they can't be double puppeteered. They've got two kind of well sculpted hands, but in fact the arm that's not being used ends up sort of flapping around and actually getting in the way.
That's the technical term.
It is the technical term, flapping around. So we're going to actually get rid of the hand, the sort of second arm on a lot of the puppets. Not completely, they will have a kind of dummy arm, so we'll sort of stitch an arm behind their back or something like that.
Yeah, or tuck it into a pocket.
Which means that probably half the hands that took me hours to papier-mâché are not going to be used, but it's just the way things are. We'll keep them, they'll probably be used for something else in the end. Yeah. But it's really important because it looks a bit messy currently with the arms kind of wibbling about. There's another practical, technical term for you. So that's one of the things we're definitely going to have to change.
And I think some of the puppets have changed practically in terms of how they work as well.
Yes.
And that is, again, it's about serving the scene. And I think we mentioned it in one of the previous puppet making videos, thinking about what you need them to do.
Exactly.
And again, doesn't matter that we've made arms for them, doesn't matter that we've made the hands for them. I think one of them is going to lose his arms altogether.
In favour of another alternative method of arm, which we'll talk about when we've actually done it.
Two of the puppets aren't going to have any bodies at all, because we've got a whole different method of
There's
delivering
the whole thing
them.
going on there, which we'll explain again when we've done it.
Yeah, and that's because that is ultimately going to be the best, as far as we're concerned. At the moment we think that's the best solution, and that's going to look the best, it's going to tell the story the best, and give us the best result.
And give us a bit of variety. There's a sort of large idea moment that Noel's got planned for the end of the show, which is in theory brilliant, and in practice may or may not work. So we've also got another less grand but equally impressive in a different way. We tried to come up with an alternative. So that's the other thing, alternatives are useful, and if you have to kill another darling towards the end, then so be it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the case as well. It's not just because an idea doesn't work. It can also be because it's simply not possible with the resources or with the time.
And it's just impractical or too unpredictable.
You've got to be realistic ultimately. It's great to kind of do all the blue sky thinking stuff at the beginning when you're coming up with ideas for the show, but when you know what the time frame is, you know how many people you've got, and you know what resources you've got to work with, you also have to be realistic.
Far better to have a simple idea that works every time than a complicated idea that might work 1 in 3.
Yeah.
So we're going to see what happens with that one, but we'll keep you posted. So that's our week.
Yeah, I think we might have mentioned before that we were going to show particular things this week, but because we've been rehearsing, we decided not to do that. We're going to save all that for next week's
Yeah, next
video.
week I'm going to be getting on with costuming for the puppets and everything, so we thought we'd probably talk about that then. Thank you very much for watching again. Thank you if you've lasted this long in our ramblings. But and please do the things that you have to do.
So we've got, gradually we've added a few new subscribers. So thank you very much if you're new to us. Please do, if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave us a comment, hit the notification. Just hit all the buttons that you can. That helps us
Not
get
the thumbs
these,
down though. We don't want that.
don't accept that one. Yeah, that helps us get the videos seen by more people, and yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.